In the depths of forgotten memories, some secrets are never meant to be uncovered. What we discovered that night at Westbrook Psychiatric Hospital would forever change our understanding of reality. The investigation began innocently enough, but nothing could have prepared us for the terror that awaited. As our team entered the abandoned building, something ancient and malevolent was already watching. The darkness seemed to breathe, to pulse with a consciousness beyond human comprehension. We thought we were investigators, documenting paranormal phenomena, but we were truly unwitting participants in a game far more sinister than we could have imagined. The first signs were subtle, a whisper that shouldn't exist, a shadow moving against the natural laws of physics. By the time we realized the true nature of what we had awakened, it was already too late. Something had followed us, something that defied explanation, something that existed in the spaces between reality and nightmare. Our equipment captured fragments of truth, but the full story remained just beyond our understanding. Westbrook Psychiatric Hospital stood as a monument to forgotten suffering, its walls holding secrets that screamed to be heard. Established in 1932, the hospital was more than just a medical facility. It was a place where the boundaries between science and something darker became dangerously blurred. The official records told a sanitized story of medical treatment, but the whispers of locals spoke of something more sinister. 27 patients and staff members had vanished without a trace in 1987, the same year the hospital was suddenly and inexplicably closed. No investigation was ever completed, no answers were ever found. Local historians spoke in hushed tones about unauthorized experiments, about doctors who crossed lines that should never have been crossed. The hospital's architecture itself seemed wrong. Corridors that didn't align, rooms that appeared and disappeared, blueprints that never matched the actual building. Something about Westbrook defied logical explanation. The surrounding town remembered the hospital as a place of darkness, a wound in the landscape that never truly healed. As we approached the building, the air itself felt heavy, charged with the malevolence that predated our investigation. Little did we know that by entering, we were becoming part of a narrative far older and more terrifying than we could have possibly imagined. The third-floor nurses' station became our first real window into the impossible. Dust-covered file cabinets held records that shouldn't exist, patient admissions dated years after the hospital's closure. Each document was a puzzle piece that made less sense the more we examined it. The patient files were meticulously maintained, with detailed notes that seemed to describe experiences beyond human comprehension. Names appeared and disappeared. Medical diagnoses shifted between impossible conditions, and annotations hinted at treatments that bordered on the mystical rather than the medical. What struck us most was the consistency of the documentation. These were not random scribblings, but a carefully maintained record of something profound and terrifying. Each file seemed to tell a fragment of a larger story, a narrative of patients who were not patients, of treatments that were not treatments. The handwriting changed, but the underlying message remained consistent. Something was happening in this hospital that defied all rational explanation. As we delved deeper, we realized these files were more than just documentation. They were a warning about what happened when human understanding reached its limits, when scientific curiosity transformed into something far more dangerous. The boundary between research and violation became horrifyingly thin. Each page we turned revealed another layer of a mystery that seemed to pulse with a life of its own, inviting us deeper into a rabbit hole from which there might be no return. The history of Westbrook was never just about medical treatment. It was about human ambition pushed beyond all ethical boundaries. Alexander Crowley, the hospital's chief architect, was a man obsessed with the theoretical boundaries of human consciousness. His designs were more than architectural plans. They were complex geometric patterns intended to create what he called thin spaces between our reality and something else. Local archives revealed fragments of his research, cryptic notes about psychological experiments that went far beyond standard medical practice, Crowley believed that certain architectural configurations could act as conduits for consciousness, creating portals that could allow communication with dimensions beyond human perception. His work was simultaneously brilliant and terrifying, a fusion of psychology, architecture, and something that bordered on the metaphysical. The hospital was his ultimate experiment, a living machine designed to explore the very edges of human understanding. But experiments have consequences, and some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed. The symbols we discovered throughout the building matched Crowley's original design notes, intricate geometric patterns that seemed to vibrate with an energy that defied scientific explanation. What we were uncovering was more than just a historical investigation. We were following a trail left by a mind that had glimpsed something profound and potentially destructive. The surgical wing of Westbrook Hospital was unlike any space we had ever encountered. Something fundamental about the environment defied the laws of physics we understood. Our equipment began to behave in ways that shouldn't be possible. Digital readings fluctuating wildly, temperature dropping impossibly fast, electromagnetic fields creating patterns that suggested intelligent manipulation. It wasn't random interference. It was deliberate communication. Each malfunction seemed calculated, as if something was attempting to communicate through our own technology. The precision was terrifying. Instruments would spike and drop with a methodical rhythm that suggested consciousness. Our thermal cameras captured impossible thermal gradients, cold spots that moved with purposeful intent, creating geometric patterns that matched no known natural phenomenon. The surgical wing itself seemed alive, breathing with a malevolence that transcended physical understanding. Instruments long abandoned began to move, surgical tables shifting imperceptibly, medical charts rearranging themselves when no one was looking. We were no longer investigators. We had become unwilling participants in an experiment far beyond our comprehension. Something was watching us, studying us, manipulating the very fabric of reality around us. Each moment we remained, the boundary between observer and observed became increasingly blurred. The morgue represented the epicenter of Westbrook's darkest secret. What we discovered here shattered every preconception about human experience and scientific understanding. The electronic voice phenomenon we captured defied all rational explanation. A response so clear, so deliberate that it sent chills through our entire team. When we asked, "Why were you brought here?" the response came not as a whisper, but as a statement of terrifying clarity. To remember, the voice carried frequencies impossible for human vocal cords, resonating at levels that suggested communication from beyond our known dimensional understanding. The morgue drawer's spontaneous opening was more than a paranormal event. It was an invitation, a deliberate act of communication from something that existed between states of being. Our cameras captured what no human perception could, a momentary manifestation that existed simultaneously and not at all. The records we found suggested these were not isolated incidents, but part of a systematic process far older and more complex than a simple haunting. What we were witnessing was a form of energy transfer, a communication method that predated human language. The morgue wasn't just a storage space for human remains. It was a gateway, a transition point between different states of consciousness. Each piece of evidence we uncovered suggested a narrative far more complex than a simple ghost story. We were documenting something fundamental about the nature of existence itself. The pediatric wing represented the most psychologically disturbing section of our investigation. Children's laughter echoed through halls that had been empty for decades, a sound so pure and yet so fundamentally wrong that it challenged our understanding of reality. These weren't residual hauntings or simple audio artifacts. This was active, intelligent communication. Handprints appeared on dust-covered windows, small, delicate, unmistakably child-sized, yet no physical presence could be detected. The spatial dynamics of the wing seemed to shift, corridors expanding and contracting in ways that defied architectural logic. What we were experiencing transcended traditional paranormal investigation. We were witnessing a manipulation of physical space itself. The children's presence was both everywhere and nowhere, a quantum state of existence that our limited human perception could barely comprehend. Each sound, each unexplained trace suggested a narrative of trauma, of experiments that had transformed these spaces into something more than physical locations. They were memory repositories, dimensional intersections where time and consciousness merged into something beyond human understanding. Dr. Harmon's audio analysis revealed layers of complexity that challenged everything we knew about acoustic phenomena. The frequencies we captured were not just unusual. They represented a form of communication that existed outside human perceptual boundaries. Multiple voices speaking in perfect synchronization, creating harmonic patterns that suggested a collective consciousness rather than individual entities. The hospital blueprints we discovered revealed impossible geometries, rooms that shouldn't exist, spatial configurations that violated fundamental architectural principles. These weren't simple drafting errors. They were intentional design elements that suggested a profound understanding of dimensional manipulation. Crowley's original architectural plans were more than building schematics. They were elaborate ritual diagrams designed to create specific energetic conditions. Each corridor was precisely positioned to generate specific frequency resonances, to thin the barriers between different states of existence. What we were uncovering was not just a haunting, but a deliberate, scientifically precise method of interdimensional communication. The hospital was not a medical facility, but a massive architectural experiment in consciousness manipulation. Every piece of evidence suggested a narrative far more terrifying than simple ghost stories. We were documenting the systematic breakdown of reality itself. Alex's encounter became the moment everything changed for our investigation. What happened to him was more than a paranormal experience, it was a direct breach of reality itself. The touch he described was not physical in any conventional sense. It was a visceral violation of personal space that transcended normal human perception. When he turned and saw the full-body apparition, it wasn't just a visual phenomenon, but a complete sensory invasion that challenged everything we understood about consciousness and existence. The night vision footage captured something that defied rational explanation, a spectral form that existed in multiple states simultaneously, neither fully present nor completely absent. Alex's experience was not an isolated incident, but a calculated interaction, a deliberate communication from something that existed beyond our dimensional understanding. The entity seemed to choose him specifically, as if selecting a conduit for communication. His trauma went beyond fear. It was a profound psychological disruption that suggested these entities could not just observe, but actively manipulate human perception. What we witnessed was more than a haunting. It was a systematic exploration of human consciousness, using our team as unwitting participants in an experiment far beyond our comprehension. The sub-basement represented the ultimate threshold of our investigation, a space that existed between reality and something far more terrifying. As we descended, the very physics of the environment began to transform. The temperature plummet to 19 degrees F was more than a simple thermal anomaly. It was a fundamental restructuring of molecular energy. Multiple paranormal events began to occur simultaneously, creating a symphony of impossible phenomena that defied all scientific understanding. Our equipment captured layers of reality breaking down, electromagnetic fields creating complex geometric patterns, sound frequencies that existed outside human perception, visual distortions that suggested multiple dimensional planes intersecting. What we were experiencing was not a haunting, but a complete dimensional breach. The full manifestation of the entity was unlike anything documented in paranormal research. It wasn't a ghost or a spirit, but a complex energy system that could manipulate physical matter, consciousness, and perception simultaneously. The team's survival became secondary to the profound scientific revelation unfolding before us. We were witnessing a form of existence that challenged everything we knew about reality. A living, intelligent energy that could reshape physical space, manipulate time, and communicate through methods beyond human comprehension. Each moment was a revelation, each second a complete reconstruction of our understanding of consciousness itself. Our comprehensive theory about the haunting went far beyond traditional paranormal explanations. What we uncovered was a systematic, scientifically precise method of dimensional manipulation. The hospital's architectural design was not accidental, but a carefully constructed method of creating thin spaces between different states of existence. The geometric patterns we discovered were more than architectural elements. They were precise frequency generators designed to create dimensional portals. Our investigation revealed that these entities were not random spirits, but a sophisticated form of consciousness that could navigate between different dimensional planes. The recurring patterns in our investigation suggested a deliberate, methodical approach, as if these entities were conducting their own research on human consciousness. Every investigation team that had entered before us had experienced identical phenomena, suggesting a controlled experimental environment. The symbols we found were not random markings, but complex communication systems that represented a language beyond human understanding. What we were documenting was not a haunting, but a sophisticated interdimensional research project using human investigators as unwitting participants. The aftermath of our investigation revealed a terrifying continuation of the paranormal activity. Team members began experiencing unexplained phenomena in their personal spaces, objects moving, unexplained sounds, subtle dimensional shifts that suggested the entities had followed us home. The boundary between the investigation site and our personal life had been irrevocably breached. Our discovery was more than a paranormal event. It was a profound understanding that consciousness is not confined to physical space. The entity seemed to attach itself to investigators, creating a continuous loop of investigation and interaction. What we thought was a contained paranormal event was actually an ongoing, sophisticated method of interdimensional communication. The final image of the hospital windows, with figures watching from every single pane, suggested that our investigation was not an ending, but merely a beginning. Something had been awakened, something that was now actively exploring our world, using our curiosity as a gateway for its own incomprehensible purposes.